Hey, this is Ari Melber, MSNBC news anchor and attorney. This is my YouTube channel. You can always subscribe to get my legal breakdowns. There is a ton going on. Donald Trump is underwater in the overall public polling. His approval rating is crashing. He just lost some elections. The Epstein files are going to get a vote, and 20,000 Epstein emails came out. Tariffs are wobbling. The Trump administration just walked back some of the food and coffee tariffs because apparently they can tell that people notice prices up, and that's a problem, especially after the election. So I just listed a bunch of stuff. How do we know any of it's true? I mean, when we refer to what a tariff does or what's in an Epstein email, how do you even know it's real? A lot of comments on the internet say, is this real? Is this AI? I just saw South Park that dealt with AI videos and Sora, and everybody saying everything might not be what it looks like while discussing how it had a high verisimilitude, how it looked real. And so this is a kind of a special extra breakdown I'm doing where I'm going to show some of my discussion with Neal Brennan, who's a very funny comic. He's got a Netflix special. Go back in the day, he was the lead guy on Chappelle's Show with Dave Chappelle. And I went on his podcast and we talked about exactly this. What about journalism's credibility crisis? And that is something that has to do with some real failures of journalism. He brought up the Iraq War and other things in history, as well as the pressure and changes from the internet, which is something I've always found to be obviously a really interesting, amazing, kind of world life-changing platform. I grew up in an era where we didn't have much of that. When I was in high school, I don't remember, I guess email was starting to come out. And now it's everything, and it's affected so many industries, including, of course, journalism. And I think a lot of what goes on with how we use these tools increases speed and inclusion in the number of sources you can use, and yet so much of what happens online sometimes involves lies, scams, hype, and BS. So we have that conversation. I'm going to play this for you. If you keep watching, you're going to see my new conversation with Neal Brennan on that, the journalism crisis, and then something else that really matters these days, which is your free speech rights. I mean, Donald Trump has gone after comics, tried to get Jimmy Kimmel canceled, tried to abuse powers at the Federal Communications Commission. Whereas, in addition, that's coming from the government, there's been other big free speech clashes about what you're allowed to say, and banning books, which we've seen come from both the left and the right in some certain times, or at least restricting access to certain things, canceling, a word that has kind of lost maybe some of its meaning these days. And so after we talk about what I just mentioned with how do you believe anything these days in journalism, we then talk about First Amendment law. I practiced as a First Amendment lawyer, not to make it about me, but in his podcast he talks about people's history and your emotional blocks. That's part of what he talks about. And we talked as well about my career working in First Amendment, and then how those tests, free speech First Amendment tests, actually operate in U.S. law. So real talk of the different views that I try to cover in my work and the different breakdowns I do. This may not be for everyone. It's a little kind of more whatever, niche. So you can subscribe to my YouTube channel to get the big stuff, the political news, the legal breakdowns, and sometimes music and culture. This goes even more deep, but if you want to see it, it's I thought would be of interest to some people who follow me on YouTube. So I wanted to put these excerpts here, and you can also check out the entire 90-minute conversation with Neal at his YouTube. I'll put the link in the description as well. And again, for those of you interested, thanks for watching. Here is the podcast, at least the highlights of the podcast.
My guest today is, I have friends in media that I don't often. I'm bringing them in from out of the cold, bring them onto the pod. This guy's got a show on MSNBC, if you can believe it. We just turned off the air conditioner, so you may not recognize him. You know MSNBC, it's the one where people talk in a very moralistic way. They do long pauses, and you can hear the air conditioner in the background.
The thing about authoritarianism.
That's how dramatic this is. And it's 5 o'clock, your show? 6 o'clock?
6 Eastern.
6 Eastern. It's called The Beat, which is a double entendre. We'll get into it. It's a double entendre about hip. The guy likes hip hop.
The whole Wu-Tang is behind me. Yeah. Bong, bong, bong. And this is The Beat.
Ari Melber. Also, he's got a Substack, which surprised me. I'm assuming it's at Ari Melber. We often talk about news credibility. You and I do, or at least I do. I don't know if you're listening. News credibility, and to the hip hop references, all that stuff that I make fun of you about. Explain to me what your approach to all of this sort of the credibility crash of the news, or people's perceived credibility crash, because I think it's largely unwarranted. I think people pick one thing that they ended up, a famous one being the Iraq War, New York Times, all that stuff. How do you defend news?
Big question.
Maybe too hard. I mean, I think it's called journalism.
There's journalism, yeah.
I'm sorry, guys.
Wow.
This is not. Now the teacher becomes the student. This is the Neal Brennan method. It's behind the paywall. Go on.
The way I think about it daily is, what evidence am I showing people, and how clear can I be about the evidence and sources we've used to present this information so that they might make up their own mind. So it's both what you do and what you don't do. I know you love and have endorsed everything that Ye has ever said.
I won't call him Ye.
And
I refuse.
Would you call Muhammad Ali by his name?
I would call Cassius Clay, when he changed to Muhammad Ali, I would call him Muhammad Ali. If he changed it again, I'm done.
That's it.
You have a one. You get one change.
Okay.
So I did Yeezy. I did Yeezy.
What about people who get divorced and remarried repeatedly and their last name keeps changing?
I still call my sisters by Brennan.
Yeah.
They can't keep a husband. A lot of these my sisters.
So as Ye said, everything I'm not made me everything I am.
Mm-hmm.
Damn.
One of my least favorite hip hop defenses. Go on.
So
Jay-Z, if I hadn't dealt drugs, then I couldn't write songs about dealing drugs. Or you could just not deal drugs.
Well, but I think everything I'm not means what you choose not to do when you have a position of influence is as important as what you choose to do. If you were alone in a desert, it might not matter what you say. So the question of credibility also goes to what we don't do. I try not to brainwash, over-polarize, over-opinion. There's a place for that.
Well, that's what I'm curious about.
I think by not doing that, you can build the credibility of the hour, because someone goes, wait, even if that information is true, did you pick these 4 pieces of information because you're truly back end trying to convince me of something? And I would say, no. I get why you're skeptical of that. Let me work with my team to present this to you nightly. We do it live every night. You can't really fake that. I mean, at a certain point, it's like me talking with this stuff every night live, right? If they catch you slipping, like, you're live. So I'm presenting this to you not because there's a secret agenda that by minute 37, I'm going to convince you.
It's truly what you think is important.
Yes, and it's truly the evidence we have. And so I've even had it, I'll stay on Epstein because I think it's of interest to many people, and probably
it's all I care about.
Your audience. No, I'm kidding. Who knows? We don't know.
No one knows. No one knows.
We don't know, but it's been a big topic. And so I was discussing it with someone because I have interviewed a lot of people around that story, and I have covered a bunch of it. And someone was saying he clearly must have been killed in prison. And I said, well, here's what we know. And I did the breakdown. There was an incentive, a motive to kill him. He was already supposed to be under special protection. He was the most notorious defendant in the country at the time.
Had attempted once already.
With no clear second. And there were multiple protocols broken that night, and then they lost the clear video that would have showed whether, if you had the accurate video, whether he went in. I said, so that's very suspicious, and you rarely can trust the government to investigate itself. Blah, 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 blah. So I went to the end, and they said, oh, so you're saying he was killed? And I said, no, that's not at all what I'm saying. I'm giving you an evidence-based view of why there are more questions, that this is more of a concern than some random thing where someone very clearly just died in a certain way, or you have the death on video, or they died in a hospital and there were multiple witnesses and you don't think all the nurses are in on the conspiracy. This wasn't that. This has a lot of credibility questions that one would investigate. But it was interesting to me that someone hearing the evidence laid out was like, oh, so then X or Y. And what I would tell the viewers is, on this one, we don't have X or Y.
Yeah.
I have more questions about whether it is Y. Door number 2, but yeah.
Does it give you pause that something like everything is open to the shadow of a doubt has never been bigger about kind of everything. You can get counterfactuals, you can get other points of view. The Epstein thing being, I think the what's funny watching Republicans sort of get hoisted on their own petards is like they endorsed a paranoid worldview, especially in the last 5 to 10 years. And now they're getting inundated with suspicion because they created a culture of suspicion of especially liberal policies. Does that give you pause? Like, this is not good.
Well, it's certainly not good for a cohesive society. And
well, then don't worry about it.
so it just depends if by good we mean that we can have large-scale societal interaction with shared reality and then try to reason through communal decisions, which is the foundation of Western democracy, which may not endure. It was not the dominant government system in the world.
It's a new idea.
It's a relatively new idea.
In terms of world history?
Then yes, it's a big problem with that. And so if you look at the scholarship on this, there is a lot of evidence that what we might measure as a certain minimal level of communal trust is essential to these large-scale systems. So Francis Fukuyama has a book called Trust. Yuval Harari writes about this in terms of which societies tend to reason their way through better. And by better, we mean that we have less random violence, we have less disruption of the social order, that we have the time and space to do progress in technology, which often means, for example, that you can beat infant mortality, or you don't have the government causing famines as they did in the leftist Chinese Mao era, that you can get past certain things. There's still going to be problems in life, but there's a bunch of stuff you could clear out when you have that requisite level of trust. And if you lose that, you tend to get autocratic or strong man, strong person leaders, or you have a total breakdown. I mean, you have countries in the world that have completely disintegrated, and you just kind of then go back to what? I mean, go look at what it looks like.
Yeah.
It's warlords, it's local violence and systems, it's bartering across geography. It looks like more like 500 plus years ago. We go, oh, we don't go over there, and they don't come over here, and that's the best we can do. And then sooner or later we have another war.
Yeah, it seems like you have to explain first principles to people now. Like, no, wait. If this happens, it's going to be really bad. But people are so angry about misinformation, just stuff that they conflate into serious crimes or issues or whatever that are just not.
Yeah, and we can also have understanding or empathy for the level at which someone's considering that decision. In other words, you and I are talking about it at that altitude. Someone who is on a ranch and their neighbor is 30 miles away, and there's no police to protect them.
Yeah,
they have their own protection, or they're chancing it, and they're not really thinking about everything that's everywhere else, right? And that's okay. I understand that perspective, especially in the short term. They're like, I'm trying to work, trying to go check to check. I'm trying to take care of my family. You're talking about over there. Like, fine. That's fine. I think if you're in other situations, and that's why it's funny, this term globalist, right, is generally very derogatory. Sometimes it's a stand-in for hate. But also there are people who are living...
All the times, it's the membership program of the Hyatt Hotel brand. Literally, globalist is the highest you can get in the Hyatt Rewards program. It's insane.
But there are class and opportunity differences where some people are bopping around to different capitals with their passport and their money, and other people, a lot of people, are living in...
Most people. Almost everybody.
One place. So talking about that day to day is not as relevant and doesn't relate. I think that's so oftentimes under the information debates is like, what do we mean by this? What do we mean by better? And which groups are we talking about?
Yeah, I just don't want to live in Mad Max. Call me old fashioned. I just don't want to live.
I get it.
Here's a question that you may not want to answer. Do you occasionally enjoy it when news organizations get sued?
Enjoy it.
Not enjoy it, but you're a lawyer, right? Like Star Jones, you're a lawyer. And do you enjoy, not enjoy, but obviously, the voting machine people winning the suit was like satisfying.
Dominion sued
I
Fox.
personally, from the outside in, even when Trump sues people, if they did lie, I do support Trump in that case. I don't like him, didn't vote for him. I do support a good lawsuit if it is libel. Now the 60 Minutes one, I
get what you're saying. A working court system should actually be available to anyone who has been wronged, and should be a forum where evidence is what resolves the conflict.
Yeah.
So, yes, I think anyone, as skeptical as we are of so much of how it fails, when it works, you look at it and go, oh, wow, like take the Alec Baldwin trial, which some people followed.
Alec Baldwin is back in court for his involuntary manslaughter trial for that fatal Rust movie set shooting.
It doesn't matter what you think of Alec Baldwin or how he would pass your name test, right?
You talking about Eladia?
I'm Hillary Hilaria. Yes, I am a white girl.
That was a situation where we now know by the end of a court process that there was no reliable evidence that he went to the movie set that day and tried to kill someone.
Dismissal with prejudice is warranted to ensure the integrity of the judicial system and the efficient administration of justice.
That's totally absurd.
Yeah.
That was the only question. The question isn't what you think of Alec Baldwin or whether they could have had better safety on set. They could have better safety at a lot of workplaces. A lot of people are put in danger. But it was a case where it's very clear from the evidence that local authorities had a debacle on their hands and a star. And while stars might get all sorts of special treatment most days, on that day, the authorities decided we're going to hang this on Alec Baldwin because he's famous. He was the most famous person around.
By the way, I'd like to say, Eladia, I'm going to give you 5 name changes because you showed such bravery and originality going from Hillary to Eladia.
Code switching.
And if you want to, I have another one for maybe your next one. Hilario.
Wow.
Hilario. Think about it.
So the question was, do you like sometimes seeing these court cases? And the answer for anyone who cares about truth or even the higher order, justice.
Did he sue any news organizations? I'm saying as a news person.
No, I'm just using a very clear example. Because
Yeah.
the news ones, you get into what does defamation mean. We could talk about it. I'm just using that as an example where by the end of that case, you said the court system actually worked. Now, we can still look at, well, he had the money to pay the lawyers. He could withstand the thing. Other people would have been forced to settle. That's why the system is so unfair to the poor. I've done a lot of work on criminal justice reform. We could talk about that. But to the question of, you look at a court system that works and you say, wow, unlike everywhere else where people bring their preconceived notions or are super polarized or reading whatever, that system worked. In that case, you apply that to say Fox News was on defense for a bunch of obviously false, demonstrably false claims, both about the election that Biden won, which they were suggesting somehow maybe Trump secretly won.
We don't know anything about the software that many say was rigged. We don't know.
And circulating conspiracy theories about voting machines and other demonstrably false things.
Fox has admitted to telling lies about Dominion that caused enormous damage to my company, our employees, and the customers that we serve.
They failed the journalistic standard. They paid out one of the largest defamation settlements in American history, over $500 million. So you can look at that and say, oh, that worked. The other obvious problem in our system and across the courts in general is the incentives are off. There's a lot of frivolous lawsuits. If rich people like Peter Thiel has done this, he just funded a bunch of lawsuits against one of his enemies in the media, Nick Denton and Gawker, and it's a complicated case. But the structural point is, if you have unlimited resources, then you can keep suing someone in different places, and you can bankrupt them, whether or not you have a good point or not. So separate from, again, what you think about that exact topic, there are holes in this system so that when the sitting president of the United States, who's reaping billions of dollars in his own conflicted crypto spending, which is a type of virtual currency that he repeatedly said was clearly a scam, but now he's in power. So like other politicians we've seen in countries with lax rules, he's making billions off crypto, and then he wants to use that to sue people indefinitely while he's the sitting president. I do think it raises more questions.
Yeah. Was your focus in law, was it free speech?
Yeah, I worked for Floyd Abrams, who's one of the top First Amendment lawyers in the country, amazing litigator. He won the Pentagon Papers case for the New York Times against Nixon. He represented Al Franken when there was lawsuits over Bill O'Reilly. And again, one of those issues of, oh, you're criticizing me. Oh, I'm going to sue you.
Yeah.
He's represented the New York Times in a case against the Bush administration where they were trying to make a reporter give up their sources. Represented Judy Miller, if you remember all the way back to Iraq, which you mentioned. So he has many lawyers who work for him. I was one of them, but really learned a lot.
Probably the best one, from what I heard. You were the only one they gave a TV show to. My other question about free speech is, okay, so Germany says don't say shit about Nazis. Basically, that's not the official the way the law is written, but that's basically what they're saying.
Mm-hmm.
To the point about DaBaby, when would it be okay in Germany to, do you know what I mean? Like okay, that's a thing happens over 6-7 years, whatever, whatever dates you want to put on the Holocaust.
You're calling the Holocaust a thing that happened.
Yeah, and there's no other word for it. I'm calling it a Instagram story. I understand. I obviously understand. It's the balance between freedom and safety. Mm-hmm. And like, where do you fall on this? Is it different every time? Do you have like a sort of mnemonic you use to like clarify it?
Free speech is a concept, and as you're mentioning, where the limits are decided by systems, laws, or people over time. The United States has one of the more robust approaches to this, meaning defending more speech, which includes harmful or bad speech. Other countries go in a different direction. Germany, responsible for World War II in the main and the Holocaust, or Japan, which has tried to make a lot of changes since that time, are places where it's not surprising to me, if you look at this as history, that those places err more on the other side. Indeed, it may be a good thing to many people, right? You say, well, you guys, because you don't get, in modern history, you don't usually get mass support for that kind of killing without a great deal of propaganda and information beforehand. So the link, which scholars and others make between the terrible thing that happened and the years of misinformation, lies, or hate speech before are relevant. So it doesn't surprise me that, I mean, we've picked an outlier, and to flip back to a more relatable example, it's like Muhammad Ali. You say, well, Muhammad Ali could habitually beat boxers who were quite a bit heavier than him. And this just goes to show, maybe we don't need such strict weight classes. Okay, we've just tried to make an argument based on an exception on one of the greatest boxers ever. Yeah. So is that a good argument, or are we saying, well, Muhammad Ali was so good he could beat Foreman even when he was heavier, but no other boxers could? So if you take that back to free speech
I guess what I'm looking for,
I don't think Germany is the best example, but I can answer the question.
No, but I know in comedy it's like I've made fun of every race. I've done Holocaust jokes. I've done slavery sketches, jokes. I've done, and then there's certain things. It's like, for some reason, like blackface. No, I've said the N-word. Whatever, I've said the N-word. But there are things where it's like we should be able to say whatever. We should be able to. My N-word defense is like it was a joke about the word, etc. But what I'm saying is, what is the legal definition? When would the Klan marching become hate speech? Right. When does it become fighting words?
So there's a famous case from Skokie, Illinois, where neo-Nazis marching peacefully, which may sound like a setup for a Chappelle skit, but as long as it truly was peaceful, was protected.
It was peaceful, though, right?
Yes.
So these were great guys.
So these bad guys
didn't need Chappelle for that stupidity.
Was protected speech under U.S. law. And another distinction I want to just say to set it up is free speech doesn't mean there's no reaction or accountability for what you say. It just means you're not going to be imprisoned for it or functionally destroyed for it. So if you can bankrupt someone through those civil law or jail them, that's a very different environment. But, I'm on live TV every night.
De La Soul is basically hip-hop royalty.
We have free speech. If I say something that makes the company decide I'm not going to be on TV tomorrow night, that's not a violation of the First Amendment. I got to speak, and they exercise their accountability.
Get thrown in jail, that's
right, which is the government.
Violation. Yeah.
So, and we've seen. So again, I've seen. I think the other thing I'll say, since it's a podcast and we're being sort of personal, this is more subjective. I wouldn't get into this as much in the middle of a news program, but it's so funny, Neal, for me, like having been the nerd studying First Amendment law and then practicing it and then having explaining it, like being at like parties with smart people who are like, wait, which amendment is that? And wait, what? And then, as you know, I don't know when, but in the last 5 or 6 years, shit got hot. Like, this became the topic on the right, but then also like a counter argument on the left, and then like I don't know about you, I just feel I went from like something more obscure to like I'm seeing politicians and billionaires and all kinds of people talk about free speech, which I put in quotes, all the time. And so that's just been sort of really funny from my background.
Yeah, well, it's their definition of free.
But then a lot of times,
people
it's
don't
misused.
realize it's just the government can't jail you or arrest you. I mean, I guess they're trying to sue now.
That you can't be taken to court or have your life destroyed for exercising your free speech rights.
Okay, but my question is, so the Klan marches in Skokie, what if the repercussions had been they got their ass whooped at the end of the march? The people who whooped their ass would have gone to jail, right? And they would have...
Well, that's a separate infraction of was their battery, right? The real question for the First Amendment test would be, did they act in a way that imminently caused a riot or violence, even if it was two-sided? So you can imagine a type of march that you call a march, but you go right up to people's houses and you start doing this and that, and it's menacing.
And that just comes down to like a jury deciding if that's over the line.
Right.
But there's a legal grievous
test.
Harm? What is it?
Yeah, there's a standard for it in the same. So you mentioned fighting words. Free speech protection does not allow you to go up to somebody and insult their wife and kids in a horrific manner and then expect them to just stand around, right? So basically,
shout out to Ted Cruz. Go ahead.
There are things that are so obviously incendiary, and that's where here's another classic example. Free speech doesn't allow you to publish instructions for making contraband weapons.
Yes.
So grenades are banned. You can't have a civilian grenade. You can't sell it. Well, can you give out all the DIY home printer information? No, that's also banned because it's not speech. You're not expressing anything. And so at a certain point, doing something that is designed to cause a fight is not expressive. That's the way they define the test, even though I know that's sounds a little abstract.
I mean, there's got to be a standard. And it's relying on you at parties to explain it.
But hate speech is something different, and we've had a lot more emphasis on that. And again, if you want to take a hateful stance against people who make plastic water bottles because that's part of your worldview, it might be terrible, might be unfair. If you go screaming about it at work, you might not keep that job, right? You don't have carte blanche everywhere you go. But you can say that because it's still related to your environmental agenda versus you getting up in someone's face to cause a fight for that sole purpose. That's not speech. You're trying to cause fight, not trying to express idea.